everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Gia. I am a 28-year-old lady who still lives in my mom's basement. As I'm getting used to being on the platform again, since this is like the third time I have attempted to try to release videos on a normal schedule, when you start reading for fun or for a hobby or for a YouTube channel like me, you tend to read a lot of book ones in a series, and you may or may not continue the series immediately after because you may be sticking to a structured TBR, or you're reading more new releases, or you're like me and you're trying to read everything that you missed out on because you were in college for a really long time and didn't get to read anything between the years of 2015 and like 2022. Like where I stopped reading, New Adult didn't exist. ACOTAR didn't exist. None of that existed. ACOTAR came out during my college years. And by the time I got back to reading, fairies were in romance. Romantasy was a category. New Adult was a category. There was sex in books, and vampires were out and then back in again. Regardless, I have read a lot of books. I think in 2022 I read like 35 or 37, and then 2023 I read 75, 2024 I read 17, and so far this year I've read 11. So all of those combined, I have not read full series to the end yet. There are a lot of book series that I have only read books 1 or books 1 and 2, and I need to continue the series. Or there are books, if you could call it that I read the first one and I said, you know what, that's enough. That's enough for me. So instead of giving you 2 separate videos to tell you which book series I plan on continuing and the book series that I will not be continuing, I figured let's make it a little fun. So we're going to do a tier list. I have these separated into 5 categories because that's how tier lists work. All the way at the top, we have chomping at the bit, frothing at the mouth. These are the books that for some reason I have not gotten to yet. Either they are new releases, they haven't released yet, or for some odd reason, I haven't quite gotten to them yet. Honestly, I'm ravenous and need to expeditiously pick these books up. Next is excited, yes, medium prio, intentionally on my TBR for the books that I'm not quite chomping at the bit for, but I am still excited to read, and I will intentionally put these on my TBR with intent to read and intent to finish. Next is eventually, perhaps to get out of a slump. These are the books that I do intend to read, but really if I'm in a place where I'm not sure what to read, or I want to read these eventually, but I'm in no rush. Followed by absolutely not. This is a cry for help. Call my mom. There's something wrong. If I pick up one of these books, there is something wrong. And then the last category is, because sometimes you read bad books on purpose, this is the hate read or only for a rant review. This is the category for books that I don't necessarily want to read, but I know that I will want to make content on it because for whatever reason, it will either make me really mad, or it's like, I don't know, a 4th book in a series that I've read the first 3 books so far, and I know I'm going to hate it, but I really just want to see where the dumpster fire ends, or it's part of a popular book series that people are going to read no matter what I say or not. But I can at least tell my very small at this point audience that the book is bad. I'm reviewing it for you and I'm telling you that it's bad. This was very specific. Every book that is listed down here is the next book in a series that I have started. And if the book does not have the next cover released for the book, I have attached the cover for the first book in the series because it will be recognizable. And since these are sequels or threequels, if you will, in a series, I don't remember everything that I rated. That was book 1, but if I do remember, I will tell you. And we're just going to go in order. I prepared literally nothing for this video. We have Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is technically the first book in the Witcher series. I did listen to The Last Wish. I don't know what more you want from me. I actually love the Witcher series so much. I am in love with the Netflix show. I have actually famously not watched the second part of season 3 because I'm scared. Henry Cavill is my Geralt, and to not see him as Geralt will be very difficult for me. So I just need to live in my delusion, although I'm still going to watch season 4 of The Witcher. I think this year I really just need to dive headfirst into the books, really just have Henry Cavill at the forefront of my mind. Next we have Iron Daughter by Julie Kagawa. I rated the first book 2 stars. I liked that the Fae in question, like the Iron Fae in question, were a product of the Fae world being polluted by human technological waste, and I found it to be like an interesting commentary on like humans and pollution and stuff. It fell into that category of books that I would have eaten up when I was 16, but as a grown-ass woman, I did not enjoy it. So maybe to get out of a slump, because I found like the world building to be kind of interesting, but I wasn't really enamored by the writing style or by the characters. But I found the universe was interesting. So this might be like, a YA, like get out of slump town. Next we have The Golden Lily. This is the second book in the Bloodline series by Rochelle Mead. I don't want to say that this is intentionally on my TBR because I do intend to read this book at some point, but it is not like super duper important to me. I always found the world building in Vampire Academy to be very interesting and unique because it was about Russian mythology. I will say, like, eventually perhaps to get out of a slump, but I do intend to read it like at some point. Like, so I'm going to put it ahead of Iron Daughter. Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. Oh god, this one feels personal because I did not like Siege and Storm at all. Like, I'm just not enamored with this book series in particular written by Leigh Bardugo. I have loved other things written by her. I'm actually finally reading Six of Crows right now and I'm really liking it. It would be a cry for help, honestly, if I could continue to read this book series because I just did not like book 2 at all. 5,000-year-old immortal being is going to end up with the young teenage girl and I'm tired. Next is The Elite. This is the second book in the Selection series. The Selection is another example of a book series that enjoyed like the first book, but it was one of those things that if I had read it when I was 16, I would have eaten that shit up, but as an older woman, I didn't get it. But it wasn't objectively bad. I hate to put it this way. Meant for and written for 15 to 16-year-old girls, and that is okay. It is a product that is meant for a very specific demographic, and it succeeds at that. I cannot fault it for that. Perhaps to get out of a slump. I cannot say that this is a cry for help because I didn't hate it. This, however, would be a cry for help. Undoubtedly, if I ever pick up another Victoria Aveyard book ever again, it will be considered a cry for help because every single book I have ever read by her has been a massive disappointment. And you know what? Realmbreaker, that could be a good series if it wasn't written by Victoria Aveyard. Do you ever just read a book by an author that is like objectively a good idea, but it's executed so poorly that you, out of spite, wish to rewrite it yourself? That is exactly how I feel about, where is it? So I can pluck it out of the lineup. This is exactly about how I feel about The Ballad of Never After, aka Once Upon a Broken Hearts, a sequel, because I fucking hated Once Upon a Broken Heart. Actually, I could write that a million times better. I know it in my bones that I could write this book series a million times better and with absolutely no whimsy involved. The reason why I would take all the whimsy out is because none of it made sense to begin with. And why it was there, I had no idea. I just had to look up what this is the sequel of. But Shadow Cursed by May Sage, this is the sequel to Wicked Court. I got this as a free ebook on Amazon. I think I got it for Stuff Your Kindle Day. And I found it to be dumb. This was the one where the youngest child of a Fae family, they have like a lot of children and they were kind of like, they were a noble family, but all the kids have to like work up their own ladders. So like the youngest child has to like do chores for the working class or something. And I made the Bernie Sanders joke. Very annoying because it was very clearly supposed to be like fated mates, but also Cinderella retelling because it was supposed to be giving like ACOTAR fated mates, like fairies and stuff. Fae princess in question was very annoying, and I think she went under in a sleeping curse in the end. It was just not good. Next is Crush, which is the sequel to Crave. Absolutely a cry for help. If you ever see me pick up this book, it is a cry for help because I hated Crave. In fact, I have a whole video ranting about it. It is an older video of mine. At the time, I had been considering, after reading Crave, that I would do something kind of similar where I was going to hate read the series and then talk about it. This whole, like, Voldemort gave me a gun head-ass book. Carrie did it, and I was just like, I'm not going to put myself through 5 to 6 books to do a video or a video series on another creator's idea that they've already done, and it will take me months to produce it. I was just like, she got to it first. It's okay. I probably would have believed the same thing, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm so fucking sorry. I don't remember the title of this book, but this is the sequel to A Darker Shade of Magic. I rated A Darker Shade of Magic 4.25 or 4.5. I don't remember. Medium priority. This is intentionally on my TBR. I do intend to read this at some point, and I will get to it, but I'm not exactly like, I need this book in my hands right meow type of thing, but it was still very good. But I also finished A Darker Shade of Magic like 3 days ago. So this is a new addition to the list. Dear God, give me the fucking strength. Okay, House of Flame and Shadow. Hate read rant review section because I am so tired. I do not like that book series by Miss Sarah Janet. I I will admit I do like ACOTAR. I'm never going to talk about it in a positive light ever because of who Miss Sarah Janet is as a person, but I very much vocally object to the popularity of this book series. This didn't need to be a crossover. I think that Miss Sarah Janet does not write urban fantasy very well, and I wish that she would stop. I don't remember the title of this book either, but I read the first book back in 2022. This is the sequel to Follow Me Darkly. It is basically 50 Shades of Grey, but the main character is like the assistant to Paris Hilton, or like a Paris Hilton-esque type of person, and then the main main guy is like, I don't know, like 12 years older than her, some shit. He has to be. And his name is Brayden, and he works in like military shit. He like developed a military technology or something. And it's basically 50 Shades of Grey, but spread out into 5 books, not 3. Exactly why? For what reason? Who asked? Nobody asked for this. When I finished that book and I went, that was terrible and I hated it, it said, oh, stay tuned for books 2 through 5. I said, what the fuck do you mean books 2 through 5? Did Rebecca Yarros go to the school of Helen Hart? Because what the fuck? How do you draw that out into 5 books? Moving on to The Witch's Blade. This is the sequel to The High Mountain Court. Now, this is a difficult one now because I finished A River of Golden Bones by the same author yesterday, and that's gonna be a rant review. Sorry, but I liked The High Mountain Court, but I hated A River of Golden Bones by the same author. It was the writing that I didn't like. So I thought to myself, I'm second guessing. Did I really like The High Mountain Court, or was I just being held hostage by something that kept my attention? I'm still gonna put this in medium prio because I am excited to read it, but I'm not exactly chomping at the bit. In fact, I will be going into it a little bit hesitant and a little bit scared. Next is The Graduate. This is the sequel to A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, a book that was a notorious disappointment for me. I did not like it. It was Hogwarts x Shadowhunters, and I don't mean to say Harry Potter x Shadowhunters, I mean Hogwarts, just the location. This is not exactly a cry for help, but I would read this to get out of a slump, but I did not like book 1 at all. It's just I didn't hate it enough for me reading the sequel to be considered a cry for help. Next is Kingdom of the Cursed. This goes into medium priority. This is literally on my library holds list right now. I've been waiting on it for a while. In fact, it has been on my holds for a while. I just keep pushing it because I wasn't ready to read. And when I was in my reading slump last year, this did come up a couple of times for me to read. I just kept putting it off, and then I just had to put it on hold again. I will be reading this soon. I will probably be reading this either at the end of February or in March, depending on when the hold comes in. Same thing with The Wicked King. I've read The Cruel Prince twice. The first time in like 2020, and then the second time in 2023 when I was trying to finish the book series then, and I didn't. So I do need to get around to this, and the fact that I own it does help a little bit. The Medici Manuscripts, this is the sequel to, I don't even fucking remember, but this is a cry for help. I hated the first book. It was dry as fuck. The magic system made absolutely no sense. Next is The Hemlock Queen. This is the sequel to The Foxglove King, and I mean, I'm not quite chomping at the bit, I will admit, but I really liked the first book in the series. It was very much inspired by the French catacombs. It wasn't quite an inspiration of, but it was giving me a similar vibe to The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, that like creepy catacombs feeling. A Curse of Blood and Stone. The first book was just so good, and I forgot about how good it was, and I was just thinking about it the other day going, why haven't I not read the second book in this series yet? A Fate of Wrath and Flame really surprised me. It was the one about the girl who transported into a magical dimension and her doppelganger killed the king and queen, but they think it was her and it wasn't, so she under duress has to pretend to be her doppelganger but with amnesia as she's trying to figure out like what's happening. I found that to be an interesting choice, and it was a good interesting choice. It wasn't panicked to the point of, oh my god, I don't know what to do and they're gonna find out who I am. It was panicked to the, okay, what's the plan? And I really enjoyed that. I really like my main characters pragmatic, and I really like them to use their brain, just even if it's just the one brain cell. I really do enjoy it when they do use it. 10,000 Stitches. This is a sequel to Half a Soul. I would not say that this is medium prio and that this is intentionally on my TBR, even though I did enjoy the first book and I do want to read 10,000 Stitches. But it's not exactly at the top of the list. So I'm going to put this like ahead of The Golden Lily because I do intend to get to it, but I'm not going to say like I'm going to read it with intention. It's going to be one of those books that I get around to. Next we got Lord of Embers. This is the sequel to City of Thorns. I rated that book 2 stars and I hated it. It was, however, interesting. Okay, pause. Let me not be too judgmental too quickly. I rated this first book 2 stars because it was dumb and silly and stupid. However, I did enjoy the fact that it was biblical in a sense that there was like a demon city and they were talking about the different types of demons and like the houses of demons. Biblical fantasy is not the right word because it wasn't like real. It wasn't, and I don't think it was real people. I don't know. I wasn't raised religious. I think Lilith was there. I don't remember. But the execution was just so whore. I can't believe I'm considering this. Maybe just for the world building, I would consider this to get out of a reading slump, but it's like all the way at the end. The Hunting Moon, this is the sequel to The Luminaries. The Luminaries being the thing that I really enjoyed because of the world building, but I wanted it to be a little bit more aged up. Like I really thought it could have really gone there with the horror elements, and I didn't get that. And I was honestly a little bit disappointed, but the book itself is good. I think I rated it 3. It is still good. I will put this at the end of medium prio because I do intend to get around to it, and it's not necessarily to get me out of a slump. I do want to read it eventually. Vipers and Virtuosos. I'm just gonna plop it right there at the end of the reading slump. I'll put this maybe right there. The first book in the universe, I don't think they're actually a series of connected stories. Pomegranates and Promises. I don't know. I get it mixed up all the time. That book pissed me the fuck off. That book pissed me off. I have a whole video dedicated to it. I was just explaining that book to my boyfriend as I was making this because I was explaining like the video concept to him, and I was just like, oh, this book, this is in the same universe as that one book that pissed me off so bad. And I explained to him like what I said in like that 30-minute video where I called it basically Delana fan fiction, and it is, to be fair. I stand by what I said. Everything I said about that book, I meant it, and I would say it again. But if I sat here and told you, camera, that I don't like romance mythology retellings, I would be a lying ass bitch. I do like that shit. I am like other girls, and that is okay. So I will give it another chance. But if I hate it, I'm not going back to that author ever again. Namesake. This is the sequel to Fable. I will put this approximately right here because I do intend to get around to it. I really, really, really liked Fable though. It was like 4 stars for me, and I really would like to go back to this universe. Mortality by Dana Schwartz, I think is her name. Looking closer at the monitor didn't help. Sorry, that's probably a better place for it. Top of the medium prio. I'm not chomping at the bit, frothing at the mouth to read this, but it is pretty up there. Fire Falling. This is the sequel to Air Awakens. I literally, I can't do it. Please do not make me read YA Avatar The Last Airbender, except the protagonist is like a yassified blonde with air powers. Please don't make me do it. War Maidens. This is the sequel to Grave Maidens. I will put this right there. Some of the world building was a little bit confusing, but I did like it, and I did really like the story, so I am really excited to see where that goes. Next is House of Roots and Ruin. This is a sequel to House of Salt and Sorrows. I need to see where this goes. I need to see it. The House of Salt and Sorrows, it was definitely a standout though, because it was a gothic horror that I really enjoyed. Actually, for it to be a gothic horror that I really enjoy, it really has to be special. I really cannot recommend it enough. I actually recommended it to my mom, who is a Stephen King super fan. So I'm hoping that she likes it because I did. Next is The Brothers Hawthorne. I will eventually get to this, but I'm going to put this all the way up here. Like I'm going to put this I'm going to do that. I'm going to put this right here. Thought it was going to end after 3 books. So when a 4th book came out, I was like, okay, I'm not really sure if we needed this. Like I'm not sure if this was necessary or if Jennifer Lynn Barnes was just trying to milk the series. I did enjoy the first 3 books. Like to say that I didn't would be a lie. I think I rated all of them at least 4 stars. A Strange Hymn. This is the sequel to Rhapsodic. This is a cry for help. I hated Rhapsodic. The fact that I saw this being recommended by somebody that I follow on book Twitter, that I then ended up reading 2 of her recommendations, and I hated them both. One of the books that she recommended that I hated doesn't even make it on this tier list because I DNF'd it. I actually finished Rhapsodic, so I can say, am I going to continue the book series? No. In terms of this book, I am not going to continue. But I can't even talk about Desire in His Blood. I'll put it up here. The Temporary Wife by Katarina Mora, I think is how you pronounce her name. That's going there. I really liked the first book, I'm not gonna lie. I want you to imagine like me, the person reading this book, the main character. You are the top paid supermodel in the world. You are basically Kendall Jenner, and your sister is basically Timothy Chalamet, in that she is in every single fucking movie. And your sister is engaged to like the son of a media mogul, and your families are supposed to combine to like fulfill some contract. But then your sister backs out because she doesn't want to ruin her career, so you have to step in to marry the guy, and he's like your best friend, but he was also in a relationship with your sister for 7 years. So it's just like, will he ever love me the same? And then he's just like, oh man, I was only in that 7-year-long relationship because I felt obligated to, but I actually wanted to be with you the entire time. Oh my god, crazy, insane. Next is Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. That's going promptly up there at the intentional TBR. Okay, this next one. Yep, it can go right there. I mean, what else did you expect? Sorry that the type is now smaller. I had to stop because when I did this, it made the bottom category disappear, so I had to fix it. And I might have to fix it again, as now I have to redo a couple of books. Anyway, Map of the Hinterlands. I'm going to slap that right up here. This is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I really liked the way that it was explained as a ethnographic research project, because my background is in anthropology, and I really, really liked the way that was set up. Celestial Monsters. This is a sequel to the Sunbearer Trials. If you really are looking for a YA book that has a lot of good queer representation, this is definitely the book for you. Definitely inspired by Mesoamerica, to say in general. It's by ancient Mesoamerica. Reign of Rose. I do have to put this at the very front of the medium prio because it is on hold at the library right now. If that's the case, then I really need to push Kingdom of the Cursed up, because they're both on hold at the library right now. So they are quite literally intentionally on my TBR, and I do intend to read them coming up next. Finished A Promise of Peridot last month, and I did say I would do that thing where I would read the sequel if I really liked the book. It's more just going to be a hard and fast rule. It's not something I'm going to stick to like every time. It's just like with intent. If I really do like the book, then I will say, okay, with intent, I will push the sequel up the TBR and really plan to get to it sooner rather than later, instead of going like, oh, I'll get to it eventually. I mean, I could say that, but if I really do like the book, I really want to read the sequel sooner rather than later, so I don't forget. But what happens next is Where the Library Hides. I will put that right there behind Kingdom of the Cursed, because I think that is going to be the next book that I put on hold at the library. At least it's going to be in the next like set of books I put on hold. Right now, I'm really trying to get through the ones that I have already on loan, and then I have like 3 more on hold, and then I have a bunch of owned books that I would like to get to next. And if I start to put things on hold at the library, I'm just going to keep reading library loans, because they're just going to come up every time I say, oh, I'm going to pick up a book that I own. And it's like, oh, your hold is ready. Do you want to take out your book? And I'll be like, oh, yes, of course I do. And I have a pretty large physical TBR or owned book TBR that I really need to get to this year, so I'm trying not to put out any holds yet. If the list is really long, I might go against that rule. Next is I Am So Sorry, I Don't Remember the Name of this book. This is by the same author who wrote To Kill a Kingdom, Alexandra Christo, I believe her name is, and I really, really liked To Kill a Kingdom. It was a standout read for me in 2023. This is another one of her books that is inspired by a fairy tale. It is not a retelling of a fairy tale, which are 2 completely different things. Next is A Song of Ash and Moonlight, and I am so sorry, but if I read that, it will be a cry for help. The world building in A Crown of Ivy and Glass was so interesting, but it was only about 60% fleshed out. And the main character, although she was very good anxiety girly representation, the book itself is not good, and the world building is not nearly good enough for me to say, I'm going to pick up the second book just to see where this character's journey is. I don't care about the character's journey. I don't care about where it's going. I don't care about the love interests. And you know, I cared just a little bit. I cared almost enough to see where it's going, but not quite. I don't want to say that I would only read it as like a hate review. You know what? Maybe that's where it belongs. Maybe because the world building is like, it made me care just a little bit, but not enough for me to be like, nah, I'm gonna pick this up and hate read it. This is like a last resort. I'll put this ahead of Fire Awakens, because Fire Awakens, I could not even care about it just a little bit. This one is a new addition because I finished A River of Golden Bones yesterday. I'm sorry, it's gonna be a hate read. I have a lot to say about A River of Golden Bones, and most of them are bad. There are a few good things I would like to say, but most of the things I have to say are bad. And if I read the second book, I am tempted. I will give you that. I am very tempted. Next is The Inadequate Heir by Danielle L. Jensen. This needs to be right there. Like, I want to put it at chomping at the bit and frothing at the mouth, but if I'm being completely honest, The Bridge Kingdom needs to be up here, because I just want to reread The Bridge Kingdom just to feel something. I'm gonna get to it, like it's intentionally on my TBR, but I kind of want to read the first 2 again, just so I can feel something, just so I can be reminded of how excited I am to read this third book. Between Fear and Favor by Jess Wisecup. I'm gonna reread Between Despair and Hope first, because I just reread Between Wrath and Mercy. So I'm gonna reread Between Despair and Hope, and then I will get to Between Fear and Favor. Those are both like 700-page books, so it is going to take me a minute, but I am still chomping at the bit and frothing at the mouth, because I waited a really long time. Like, the cover was released for a long time, but Miss Jessica, if you will, she did push the release of this book. Completing a series is a lot, and I think she did cite some like mental health struggles, or that she was really stressed out about meeting a certain deadline, and that's fine. I mean, look at George R.R. Martin. I DNF'd Reckless, so I don't even know why this is here. However, I know enough about what happened, and I also watched Rachel's video on it. I know enough that I could probably hate review Fearless, and I could get most of the points across. I'm sure there's not a lot of good points, but I'm sure I would be able to get a lot of the points across. I'm gonna slide this right up here. I did not really think that A Study in Drowning would stick with me as much as it did. I described it to a friend as one of those books where the process of reading the book, I wasn't exactly sure what I was here for, but by the time I finished it, I was like, no, this book changed my brain chemistry on a level that is immeasurable. You know what? Fuck it. I am chomping at the bit and frothing at the mouth for A Theory in Dreaming. Also, that being said, A Botanist's Guide to Rituals and Revenge. I did not plan to get this attached to this book series, but I fear that it is becoming a favorite. Not like favorite as in it is a literary masterpiece. Like it's not like a Martin Scorsese in a book or anything. I'm becoming attached to it in that they are consistently 4-star reads. I really like the characters. I'm completely invested in the idea of this all being murder mysteries by solving florographical puzzles, or there's a mysterious poison that we have to find the identity of, and we're trying to find new botanical discoveries, and oh no, somebody died because they touched a plant. Academic mystery? Are you joking? This is second only to the idea of like a mystery surrounding a team of archaeologists who accidentally uncovers a tomb, and there's a curse you have to lift, and there's a curse you have to solve. And there's ghosts, like second only to like that kind of a thing. This is perfect for me. Again, they're not literary masterpieces. They're not 5 stars, but they're 4s, and they're really good at that. I might as well just plop her up there too, because I am also frothing at the mouth to read Wisteria by Adeline Grace. I love the Belladonna and Foxglove. I was actually so excited when I was looking up all the book covers for these books that I wanted to cover, and Miss Adeline Grace announced that there's going to be another book in the series, but I saw that it was a 3.5. Its name is Holly, but it's a holiday novella. Don't piss me off with these holiday novellas. Please, I'm begging. I believe this is Brigands and Bread Knives. I've said multiple times that cozy fantasy is not for me. Maybe it's for you. And at least this one has lesbians. That's kind of how I feel about this series, in that I enjoy that it exists and I enjoy that there's good queer representation, but it is not quite for me. That like low stakes cozy fantasy, not for me. However, could be a good reading slump evacuator. And then we all knew where that was going. Little Miss Fourth Wing. I'm actually thinking about putting out another video that's just me ruminating on the potential titles for the book, because I put on my last video, I put up a chart that was like first word, second word of me trying to guess the title of the 4th book. Kind of inspired to do like a 10 to 15 minute long video, like a shorty, a little short stack of a video in which I'm trying to figure out and guess what the name of the 4th book will be. And I also think that I will be right about my predictions about how the next book is going to end. So I would like to not only guess the plot of the 4th book in the Empyrean series, but I would like to guess the title. I really just want to get ahead of the curve here. I really just want to get ahead of Rebecca Yarros, because publishing Onyx Storm on my birthday has really spurned me into being a Kendrick level hater, and I really need to optimize my hateration in this year. I'm trying to pink parse my hatred of Miss Rebecca Yarros. Let me just do a little rearranging. I think this is it. I think this is a really good indication of where I am in terms of book series that I have started, how excited I am to continue reading the series. I think this is really a good litmus test going forward for me personally. If I'm going to be choosing any books to put on hold at the library, I can maybe refer back to this image and go, oh, you did say you were more excited to read this book than this book, so maybe push that one further up the TBR. So this is really an activity for the both of us, for you to watch and for me to use. Anyways, that is all for me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you got to the end of this video, if you'd like to find me anywhere else, you can find me on Twitter. I did stream on Twitch this week, and I do plan to stream again later this week. So please clap emojis in the comments if you got to the end of this video. Claps for Gia for streaming on Twitch this week for the first time this year, and I do hopefully intend to pick that habit back up. Remember to drink water and be nice to each other and exude kindness and empathy with everything that you do, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.